So yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining in. I'll just take us through the purpose of the meeting and everything, the objectives of the meetings. But for now, maybe can I invite Cecile to give us maybe a background on how this idea came about, and yes, and then I can proceed with the objectives.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for the invitation and for joining us today. So this idea, in fact, came from a new consortium on child empowerment built by Terriendo Redes, a network of Latin American organization based in Mexico, but also Defense for Children International, based in Geneva, but with 30 members around the world, and also Dynamo International, also important network with young people around the world. So yes, thank you so much for joining today. So during the whole week, there will be regional meetings. And we start today with the African regional meeting, the day one in English. But during all the week, there will be meetings from the different regions where the consortium is based. So yeah, welcome everyone.
We can start, as I explained earlier on, the objectives of this meeting is to first, of course, facilitate the knowledge exchange and collaboration among the CI sections in Africa. Also share best practices and successful models of children and young people's participation and also their empowerment. Identifying the key challenges and barriers faced by children and young people in exercising their rights to participate and suggesting effective solutions to the barriers. We also want to develop strategies and action plans to promote meaningful participation and empowerment of children and young people. Also strengthen the network and cooperation between DCI sections in Africa. Of course, our target is having all of you represented here, then the executive directors, the IS2, some of our colleagues also legal experts, but we're also hoping to be joined by others. And we will be, of course, focusing on the participation of children. And as Cecile mentioned, or as explained, it's going to somewhat feed a concept that is being submitted, would be submitted to the EU with other organizations, consortium members. And we thought the outcomes for this meeting would be one, enhancing the understanding of the importance of children and young people's participation and their empowerment, sharing knowledge and best interests on effective strategies for promoting children's rights, we want to also develop an action plan and strategies to forward this. Of course, strengthening the collaboration and increasing visibility and recognition of child right-led organizations, and of course, youth groups. Raise awareness among policymakers and stakeholders on the importance of children's rights to participation. We already are doing this within the SheLeads. That's why I thought it would be good, or rather we thought it would be good to have some of our colleagues within the program to just give us their own experiences and what they have learned from the cooperation of with the youth groups and children in participation. With this, I will just give you a very brief overview of child participation or children's rights in Africa. And then it will be followed by, let me just look at the calendar, the agenda. It will be followed by the presentation by Manav. Of course, it's going to be a very participatory session. Manav will give us a little presentation on enhancing children and youth participation. And then we'll have a health break. After that, we'll be talking on how to amplify voices of children and youth through media and technology. Then followed by strengthening child-led organization and youth groups. After that, we'll have a lunch break. Then we will talk more on partnerships and collaboration for children's rights, followed by actions. And yeah, we'll now close up the session. And by the end of or rather tomorrow, we should be having like a working document on what will be discussed today. Yeah, so is there any other thing that you would like added to the agenda?
C'est bon.
Merci, Manav. Okay, so let me give the briefing on the current situation. As we know, African countries have made a significant progress in recognizing the rights of the child to participation. Many countries have ratified, of course, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which also has a specific general comment through the Committee on the Right to Participate or the Right to Participation, as well as we have the African Charter on the Rights of the Child, which serves as a key legal instrument for safeguarding children's rights in the region. Of course, as we all know and accept and understand, child participation is a fundamental aspect of children's rights. And yeah, it recognizes their ability to express their views, be heard, and actively participate in matters that affect them. The African Charter, as said, specifically emphasizes the importance of child participation. It recognizes the right of every child to express their opinions freely and to have those opinions taken into account in accordance with their age and maturity. We also have various UN agencies, including the UNICEF, which has led various studies on the rights of the child to participate. And if we look at Article 7 of the African Charter, that one is very specific on child participation. And just a moment, let me just pull out what it says exactly. Every child who is capable of forming his or her own views shall have the right to express those views freely in all matters affecting the child, the views of the child being given due weight in accordance with the age and maturity of the child. So that's exactly what Article 7 of the African Charter says. And we also have a general comment, which was issued by the African Committee. The general comment, sorry, let me just read through the general comment. The general comments number 2 on Article 12 of the African Charter specifically focuses on child participation. Of course, the EU itself, or rather the AU itself, does not have any very specificity on child participation, but having the African Charter and the African Committee of Experts there, it automatically reinforces the right to participation. We've already talked of the United Nations Convention, and yeah, just bringing in Article 12 of the CRC, which specifically emphasizes the right of the child to participate in decision-making processes that affects them. It highlights the importance of allowing children to address their views freely and ensuring their opinion are given due. Yes. And then we also have General Comment 12 from the UN Committee, and on the right of the child to be heard. This general comment was in 2009. The general comment provides an in-depth guidance on the implication of Article 12 of the CRC, focusing on the right of the child to be heard. It clarifies the principle of the child participation, including the right to express views freely, the right to have those views given due weight, and it also addresses issues such as evolving capacities of the child, the role of the parent and caregivers, and the importance of the child, of child-friendly and inclusive mechanisms for participation. So this again emphasizes the main idea of this whole potential project, which is to not only fight for the rights of the child to participate, but also empowering them to do just that. We also have General Comment 17 in 2013, I believe, on the right of the child to social and legal protection from harmful practices. Of course, this general comment primarily focuses on the harmful practices, but it also highlights the importance of child participation in addressing exactly these harmful practices. It emphasizes that children should be actively involved in decision-making processes and measures taken to protect any form of harmful practice. It recognizes the right of the child to express their views, be heard, and participate in finding solutions to eliminate all these issues affecting them. We also have the same supported within the SDGs. And there is very specific, it's very broad, but the SDG goal 1617 specifically focuses on promoting responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision-making at all levels. This goal recognizes the importance of ensuring that children's voices are heard and are taken into account in decision-making processes. So in general, these are the mechanisms that support the decision-making, the right to participate of children and youth. But maybe it would be good to also hear if there is any local or national legislation specific to this right. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, sections, if there is anyone who would like to just specify if there is any legal, any legal mechanisms that can be used in this,
Maybe we can discuss this more, your question, after my presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You would like to do the presentation now?
And,
sorry, Manav, you're breaking.
Yes. I'm really sorry about it. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do this presentation briefly because what rainy season is raining and when it's in we are so they will be announcing the final results. The user to it's deliberate on the government that people don't access. But let's my presentation, and if I am breaking, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've lost Manav. So he was just explaining how Yeah, he's back. This day, I think today is going to be the day they give results for the ongoing elections in Sierra Leone. So yeah, that might be a reason why he is the connection is not very good. But as we wait for him to fully reconnect. Yes, Madav.
Okay. Sorry, I presentation because I always try everything. For participation, Africa have in terms of I also encourage my colleagues from Zambia, I think also from Ghana. Start. I think it's part of your.
Yes, but now we really cannot hear you. The connection is really not good. There's a suggestion. Maybe if you can move to another. Oh, okay. Yeah. So have Faustina. Good that you have joined us. Faustina is our colleague from Ghana, who will be representing George today. So might you have any idea of any legislation present in Ghana that is supporting the right to participate, the right to participation in children?
Hello.
Yes, Manav.
So, similar stories often at the sorry on the legislations all countries.
Sorry, Manav, would it be possible to write it on the chat? We really cannot hear you. Yes, Faustina, sorry. I was asking if, and you too, Happiness, if there is any legislation that you might be aware of that would support the right to participation.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Faustina from DCI Ghana. Please, can everyone hear me?
Yes, very well, Faustina.
So in Ghana, we have the Children's Act. It was enacted in 1998, and it's the Act 560 of all the Ghana Acts. As per the Act, there is a section for child participation. And we also use the UN CRC as a legal document for promoting child participation. And Ghana also has a policy, which is called the Child and Family Welfare Policy. And as part of the policy, we have some guiding principles where child participation is a key component in any child protection program. So recently, almost all the regional and national meetings the ministry have been organizing, they make sure that there is a child representative present in the meeting to also add the voices of children and also share their concerns to the panelists whenever they find themselves.
Thank you for that, Faustina. Happy?
Thank you, PresentaTheon. I want to say our child called 12 years of lobbying and advocating for it. So in Zambia, we finally have a and in our child code, a child participation strongly comes out in because the children. The same that happens even for the youths. It's for the youths by the youths. So we have a legislation that's really supporting child participation in Zambia. That's my submission.
Thank you, Happiness, for that. Just to confirm, because you're breaking off, just to confirm, you mean that there's a new legislation on child participation just coming in this year, or when was it? And what would you say was DCI Zambia's contribution to that happening?
It was enacted last year after years of consultation and lobbying the government to have a child code bill. So DCI participated in attending meetings with other civil society groups that we have here in Zambia. So yeah, it was really a long process because it took like two governments. The other government, they were really not so concerned about children's issues. So the final government that came in 2021 managed to at least enact the child code bill that had been pending for years.
Okay, wow. Okay, thank you so much for that. Happy. Manav, yes, hopefully your connection is much better now.
Yes, let me be coming in quickly. So thank you, my colleagues from Zambia and Ghana, who have just said what I wanted to say. I wanted to start with saying that nearly all the countries in Africa, especially those where we have DCI sections, they have child rights legislations that really make provision for child participation. And what is common across Africa in implementation of these provisions in their legislations is one, establishment of national children's groups. In some countries, they will call it Children's Parliament. In other countries, like in Sierra Leone, we call it Children's Forum Network. So there are different names they have given to these groups, but normally established by the government under the ministry that is responsible for children. And these are usually the most recognized umbrella bodies of children, which normally when governments want children's participation in certain processes like development of legislations and policies, these are the groups they will target to bring in children to participate in the processes. Another thing that is really common in Africa is that we do a lot of child participation on event-based, especially on commemoration of international days. So for example, when the Day of the African Child, June 16, is coming, you see a lot of African countries organizing children together with the NGOs, organizing children to participate in different ways. And sometimes, or most of the time, the events that these ministries organize, where these government officials will be coming, they bring in these children either to come and perform drama, and now sometimes also they may ask them to do position papers. But what happens to the position papers are also another questions. So one would also say it has been more of even decoration than actual child participation. So across Africa, in our countries, we have actually realized that the mechanisms, the institutions that should really support or facilitate child participation is very limited. Most often, it's limited to allowing children to sit in meetings like either monthly or quarterly meetings organized by the ministry in charge of children so that you come bring them to sit in these meetings. Whether they are talking now or they are not talking is another thing. Or like I said, decoration of events. But you don't really have a clear-cut mechanism where it is clear that, first of all, there is government budget allocation. And this budget allocation is based on the fact that this year, children will be participating in decision-making processes like legislations, like when Parliament is meeting, probably we can have a parallel meeting of children so that they can also present their own views, which we can bring to Parliament, to the General Parliament for discussion, or we can bring children to Parliament to do presentation on their own, on the issues or their own views on what the Parliament is debating, or when government is preparing budget, there is always lay down a fixed mechanism for children's participation. You will hardly find this kind of mechanisms. So basically, everything we are talking about, child participation, you see that it's quite disconnected to the real decision-making processes. And most often, they are more project-based. It is really the NGOs on the ground promoting child participation much more than the state institutions. And even among state institutions, you see that those who make any attempt to do child participation are only the ministries responsible for children. So as an organization, we were to be proactive and really make a much analysis around our mechanisms, like what I have explained, really doing mapping on decision-making processes and start engaging government, how they can really have a consistent or systematic provisions in terms of how children can participate in these decision-making processes. It should not be ad hoc. It is not, children should not only go and talk to parliamentarians because DCI or Save the Children has a project that makes provision for children to engage parliament. And because of that, they can go and talk to parliamentarians, and after that project, it doesn't continue. So as DCI, if we are we are developing projects or programs, these are some of the things we look at. We really have to go beyond the ad hoc means of child participation and really ensure that we are able to get government do more interpretation on their legislations. So they have legislations, the legal framework for child participation, but that has to be properly interpreted and mainstream into the different decision-making mechanisms, like I just spoke about budgeting. There's always a program for government to develop national plans. There's always program for government to do annual budgets. Parliament discussed several things that are concerned governance as well as welfare of people, but all of these have no provisions for consistent children's participation. So we have to look at this as something key. And I would just like to share the She Leads approach, which I am really reflecting on, to even look at one of the best practices we can use to develop programs and also get our governments to start implementing initiatives like this. Child participation within She Leads is not ad hoc. It's part of the planning. It was part of the designing of the program. It is part of the annual plan and everything about She Leads. So it's not by guess. It is not by the fact that someone somewhere at some point will just raise the issue, oh, we need children to participate. No, it has already been planned. It is organized. It is within the decision-making frameworks. So within She Leads, we have different levels of decision-making. We have the global level, we have regional level, and we have national level. And even within national level, we have also even cascaded to community levels. And in all of these platforms of decision-making processes, there is a consistent provision for children or youth to participate. So even in terms of budgeting, we always budget for them. So it's not, so we are not taken unaware. So it is planned, it is budgeted for, and the children, the girls in this case, have been trained to be able to participate. And now we are in the 3rd year of the program. They have gained so much experience, confidence to participate in these processes. So for me, this is a very good learning for DCI. And really, these are some of the things we should start pushing to the government to begin to mainstream within their decision-making processes. We shouldn't have to continue leaving child participation just as an ad hoc initiative, only because an NGO is asking government to do it at a certain point in time. And probably there's a little opening for that, for maybe parliament or whosoever is in government that is in decision-making position to be receptive and allow that participation to happen. So we have to push government to move beyond words into action. And those actions should really speak to mechanisms that should allow participation, looking at the various decision-making processes, how it's planned annually for children to participate in these processes, and how they are also budgeted for, so that it doesn't have to happen only when an NGO is supporting. Now, one of the opportunities we have, I'm sure not only in Sierra Leone, but in different parts of Africa, especially in the various DCI, in the various countries where we have DCI sections, is the fact that there is really an emergence of children and youth groups. 10 years back, we were really trying to promote child participation by going to schools to establish child rights clubs, and also talking to school administration to allow these children to be taking part in decision-making processes in schools, including even developing policies for child protection, which now we normally call safeguarding, even in terms of disciplinary measures, how can they participate in these processes. But then a lot of these groups who have been setting up in these schools, some of them, even after becoming older than 18, they have established their own groups. So we have a lot of children and youth groups who have also got the experience to participate. Some of them have even established regional networks, like we have the Mano River Youth Network that has membership in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. So these groups are existing now, with a lot of them have enormous experience. So it is this is an opportunity for us to even make use of these existing groups, to work with them and really ensure that we are able to influence our government to establish the mechanisms for decision making. And lastly, another important point that I would really like to share is the fact that both the UNCRC and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, as part of those articles that they have provided for decision making, it is also about children's view to be heard. And they make specific reference to judicial proceedings. So the fact that we have also the OP3, the Optional Protocol 3, which is talking about communication, I think as DCI sections, we should really make sure that our governments ratify this the OP3, this optional protocol, and go beyond ratification and really ensure that we have national mechanisms beyond the human rights commissions, because in most of our countries, we have human rights commissions who are also mechanisms that really look at violations of human rights. But usually they do not make much provision for children. So we really have to, beyond the ratification, we make sure that government has mechanisms that would really ensure that children who have complaints of violations can really have access to child-friendly complaint mechanisms so that their views can be heard. So I will leave it like this, and also now probably encourage more discussions. And as we are going, I'll be coming in again to share further experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manav, for that insightful intervention. So from what I have gathered, one key challenge is that children's participation in Africa is mostly encouraged by NGOs, but governments themselves do not have or are not motivated to have children participate in decision-making processes. Though we have children's groups and such as child parliaments and such, they're still not utilized in the most optimum way. It's to some extent seen as if it's just there to fill in the papers, but not really engaged as they should be. So that's a gap. Also, there is potential for now us as DCI and as the consortium. There is potential for us to collaborate with such groups, like the children's groups and youth groups, just as you have said how we are doing with the She Leads. And yes, just advocating more so that our governments are not just filling or checking a point in the documents, but actually doing something about involving children and youth in decision-making processes. Yeah, that's what I captured, but I will re-listen again and see if there's something else that I missed out. Thank you very much again, Manav. Is there anyone who would like to add to that discussion? Maybe an experience and something that you have seen within the She Leads, because I see we have also Lydia from Ghana and Faustina, who can now also give us ideas on what they have learned within the She Leads when it comes to child participation and youth engagement too.
Hello, Pradeep.
Yes, Faustina.
Yes, I think like Manav said, She Leads has really created great opportunities for child participation, especially within our context. Previously, even though governments, departments, I'm speaking from the Ashanti region, you would realize, even though they are involving children, but you would realize the number of children participating in the event are quite few. But She Leads has always created that platform where a lot of children are able to add their voices to decision-making. There were some instances where we could even lobby these decision makers for children to participate in the assembly meetings and all that. And this has also boosted their confidence. Now, hardly would you call a child to share their views and they will be drawing back. They have the exposure. So now they are confident to talk on any issues. And when they meet these stakeholders, they are also able to view their concerns very well for the necessary referrals. So I think She Leads have done great, and we are hoping for future programs which will also improve on child participation or increase child participation within our region.
Thank you, Faustina. My question is, what are the main challenges as per Ghana itself? Manav has shared an overview of the whole of Africa, but for Ghana itself, what would you say are the main challenges to participation for children and youth?
Hey, I think our challenges is not far different from what Manaf said. And I'm very happy when he mentioned the child-friendly mechanism for children to report. Because Ghana, we don't really have a specific child-friendly mechanism for children to report issues. Sometimes when they encounter issues, they feel a bit intimidated to even go to these child protection agencies. I recall when we had the Day of the African Child, after the webinar, we had a section with some of the children. And one girl advocate mentioned that even though in their community, sometimes they encounter abuses and all that, but when they try to report, it's as if, sorry, it's as if,
sorry.
Sorry, it is more like an offense for them to talk on such issues. So I think it would be good for Ghana as a nation to create mechanisms where children will feel safe to report any abuse. Because going to these, I know Department of Social Welfare, DOFSU and the others, they have that avenue. But now the children feel they feel they will be intimidated and they will be stigmatized when they go to these institutions. So there should be a child-friendly mechanism. It can even be a short code, it can be a hotline, but there should be a mechanism where children will feel safe and it will be quite closer to the children for them to also report issues.
Yeah, thank you for that. Happy, is there anything you would like to add as for Ghana, Zambia? Any specific challenges to Zambia? Maybe it might reflect what Faustina has just said and what Manav also said. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Manaf and Faustina, because we're having an issue whereby we are engaging children as a by the way. When we are having programs, then we say, okay, child participation. But as for Zambia and maybe also for DCI, maybe I can say that we are really trying in terms of our child participation, because we have a radio program and we've been bringing children on radio just to speak about issues concerning them. And I think if we're just starting from these small things, we are trying to pull a bigger group, and we're also trying to work with schools to try and mentor them and make sure that at least we have them participating in decision-making processes. But however, our child code bill is still very new, and most government departments are still trying to understand it. So for us this side, we feel we have so much work to do in terms of getting the government departments to really accept child participation in all levels. So yeah. I think that's what we have from Zambia.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. May I maybe just add another aspect? We are looking so much into government and what the government has done, but would you think it's okay for us to also look at cultural, like in Africa, what cultures has done or has contributed to the participation of children in decision-making processes? I know in most cultures, yeah, like you've said, happiness, children's views are seen as by the way, or just completely ignored. So is there maybe anyone who has had such an experience in their work, and how did you tackle that challenge?
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, Manav.
I think I'm now clear. So
yeah.
We have had previous programs like the Girls Advocacy Alliance, Girl Power, but also other child protection projects that have really focused on the communities, the community mechanisms. So what we are doing and still doing, because it's part of what DCI does at community level, we always try to map out decision-making processes or mechanisms within the communities. So in some of our communities, we know that decision makers, for not some, all our communities, main decision makers are the chiefs. How do the chiefs meet to make decision? Who is really present in these meetings? What are the different levels of the meetings? And how do we engage the chiefs to ensure that children and women as well? Because the problem has not only been children, but also women, and we do both together. How do we ensure that children and women can also take part in these meetings, and they can also be given roles to play? It's not just about taking part in the meetings, but also be given roles. And with Shili's coming, we are even happy that where we stopped or where we were with those events, Shili's just provided the opportunity to even push more for the leadership and participation, especially at those levels. So it's really about doing mapping at community level, knowing what exists, what are decision-making processes, and how do you engage the different community mechanisms to ensure that they can mainstream women and children within the process. And when they mainstream them, they can also give them positions, leadership positions, but either permanent leadership or how can I call it, problem-solving positions. So for example, if in the meetings, something has come up as an issue that they want to address, they should not only always put men in charge, but there are also women and youths. I mean, the young men who may have even probably past the age of 18, but they are still within that age that they can also capture. So these are the things we have been doing and we are still doing, and we are making progress, especially at those levels. However, what we are seeing more is the creation of maybe new positions rather than allowing women and youths to occupy the traditional leadership positions. So, for example, instead of a woman becoming a chief, because the men still want to be the chiefs, they are creating positions for women like Mami Queens, women's leaders, and so on and so forth. But again, that's a good start, because with these new positions, they are also now allowed to take part in decision making. So it's both a problem with youth participation, but also women's participation, because even some of the structures we have in these communities that are supposed to be occupied by the youths, they are over-dominated by the male youths. In fact, in Sierra Leone, when you talk about youths, people think you are referring to boys. You know, when you talk, they think it's just boys, especially at community level. So we are trying to change all of that, that it's not just boys, it is girls. And as I said, the opportunity we have is that because of the programs ongoing, we are also having brilliant, energetic, and very active girls and young women who are willing and able to occupy this position. So nobody will even think, oh, they are weaker sex or they are not ready. They are ready and they are proving themselves. So there's a lot we can do at those levels, but in summary, it's about mapping decision-making processes and negotiating, really working with them to mainstream the youths and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Manav. Yes, it's true. Not just in Sierra Leone, but even in DRC. I can say that when we are discussing, or rather when the discussion is there on youth, majority would definitely go into the boys or the men. Like that's the entirety of youth. So yes, that's another aspect we can look at it, culturally speaking. Happiness and Faustina, is there any cultural stops or barriers to youth and children's participation, and how do you think we can best tackle this?
Hello, Pudi. I don't know if I can come in.
Yes, Lydia.
All right. Good morning to you all. I think I joined late, but I want to just contribute a little.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about the barriers. I just want to contribute to the discussion so far. So I want to say that now, when we talk about cultural barriers, I don't think okay, I'll speak from the perspective of Ghana. For Ghana, so far, I don't think we can say that there are certain cultural barriers that are preventing the youth, or let me say, especially girls from participating or children from participating in decision making, though they are there. But I think as time went on, with the programs that have been implemented so far, and also with the current program, most of the stakeholders are now buying into the idea, or let me say, they've really bought into the idea of allowing girls and children to be part of decision making. I can say that now they are
Lydia?
Their minds are being changed or are in the process of went also. Hello.
Yes,
hello,
we
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I think my line went off, so I don't now stakeholders and the involvement of children, only girls in maybe decision making spaces. So that's just what I wanted to add briefly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happiness.
Thank you, Pradesh. I would say efforts are being made both by the government and civil society organizations to, especially on women participation, to ensure that women are included in all aspects. But one thing I'm just noticing at grassroots level, no matter how much efforts are being made, still the girl child is relaxed. That's what we've observed from Zambia. We call programs for them, only a few show up, or it's still like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing or it's a confidence thing, but it's still like the girl child is still not so forthcoming despite making deliberate programs about them. You find that you have to push them. In some cases, we have programs for girls. We end up just accommodating boys because the girls are not showing up. So from our end, we're still trying to see how best we can get girls to participate in their programs or inclusive programming, because it's still a challenge from us this side.
Okay. Why do you think this could be the case that in most cases in an event you'd find more boys attending than the girls? Because I think this is a very interesting way or an interesting aspect to the issue that might feed well into the proposal.
So one of the things you find, they'll tell you we're busy with chores, but it's not like families don't really give them time. You find that they've been given time to go and attend some programs, but the willingness in them is what's lacking. So I think that's what we're trying to address, to get the girl child interested in participating, because it starts with them. Some they'll just give you the reasons are really not so valid. So I think it's to start by building the interest from them so that they can be willing to participate.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Happy for that. Yeah, it's really a very interesting way of looking at it. So for you, you might say that many, like in most instances, girls are not willing to participate in activities and empowerment activities.
Can I also add my voice? Yes. Thank you very much, Happiness, for also bringing this up. And again, I'm also quite happy to meet with you today. I like meeting with new DCI colleagues, especially from Africa. We do experience similar things here, especially when we start working in communities, but as time goes on, we start overcoming. It's quite difficult for girls at community level to show up. I think there are a lot of issues around, their domestic engagements, but also their own orientation, because they are not prepared to be in public. So even by their own cultural orientation, they should be operating at domestic level. So it's like even trying to put them into public spheres, it's like a burden. It's like you are creating a new challenge for them. So it takes time before they can get used to some of these things. So it's a reality even here. Like I said, especially when we start working with them at the community level. But maybe as time goes on, they will start changing. And we also have to recognize the fact that they also all don't change at the same time. So you start gradually, 1 or 2 or 3 start changing, start showing up more, whilst others may still be lagging behind. But one of the things I have been thinking about critically is that, because even with boys, child participation generally, sometimes you make programs for these children, they will come late, they wouldn't come together, and they might delay. Sometimes you really think, are they interested or not interested? But one of the things I have started really thinking about is that maybe some of our programs are also creating layers that are with the general activities of children. Because I'm seeing myself as an example. When I was a small boy, when there is time to play football, don't call me to meeting. I will not go there. I will definitely not go to your meeting. Football at that moment when it's 4 p.m. and you call me to a meeting, any other thing. So our program deciding the should have or they have to pay or do other things that they really. So maybe we should start thinking about how do we match our programs with some of the things that they like, so that it doesn't become like something that is fighting what they like, something that's probably is promoting. This is my thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Because most activities are by adults, so we do not put that into consideration, the fact that it might be taking away their time for fun and play. So yeah, I think it is a very good way of thinking. We can have an innovative way of mixing the two, the playtime and the empowerment activities. Yeah, something to explore further as we continue to develop this. Hi, Fode, welcome. We were just discussing the various challenges that we meet, very specific to each country in Africa on child participation. We have had quite interesting answers and ideas on how we can move forward. Would you like to contribute to this specific question on the specific, the current legal status of child participation within Liberia. Also, if there are any challenges that you have seen and any lessons so far in your various activities.
Yes, child participation is a key in our implementation of our work in Liberia, more especially DCR Liberia. Mm-hmm. So we have been greatly involved with ensuring that youth and children participate meaningfully in most of our program work. So for example, we have the peer educators that work in communities, work in the schools and other communities, more especially targeting the public schools. Mm-hmm. Then we have the child rights clubs that work with children, and those children integrate into what we call the Liberia Children Representative Forums. Then we have the Booty Club in schools. The Booty Clubs are there to also report cases of sexual exploitation and abuse in schools. So the Booty Clubs are there. They are about 15, one male, and the rest of them are all female. So the Booty Clubs are there. We train the Booty Clubs. We certificated them. These Booty Clubs are also there to report cases not only of sexual exploitation and abuse in school, but also report incident of sexual exploitation and abuse in the community and refer it to the guardian counselor. So these Booty Clubs, they are very effective, and they also report teachers who are involved in sexual exploitation and abuse. You know, one key issues on the prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse is one of the many for all UNICEF partners. If you want to implement a UNICEF project, you have to sign onto it, and you have to integrate it into all your program work, including your human resource policy, including your child protection policy. It has to be integrated. So we integrated the prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse in school to adequately give the space for children to participate meaningfully on issues that affect them. So child participation is very key. So you will find out that now, especially in the Shidis project, you have girls and young women now are now advocating. They have transformed themselves into community-based organization, advocating for the engaging the police, engaging the magisterial code on alleged cases of child domestic violence, sexual exploitation and abuse in the schools and in the community, and in fact, report some of the cases, not only to DCR, but other partners as well. So because of this, there's a group they call PresentaTheon, a Swedish-based organization, so they have some memorandum of understanding with them. So we look at the children as equal partners when it comes to participation. We look at them as equal partners in our work. Then we have another group, the stakeholders. We have the local stakeholder who also, because there's a new strategy that has been developed in Liberia we call social behavioral change and communication strategies that try to eliminate negative social norms in the community. So these strategies, we have most of the local stakeholders who will be perpetrators that are involved in the implementation of the strategy. It's not only that, they also work with youth and children groupings for the implementation. So they equally participate into these strategies, and the children are now implementing the strategies in the communities that we work in, more especially Cape Town, Bombing, and Mosorado. And we're also rolling it out to 3 additional counties, the Grand Jide County, Nimba, and Lofa County, because these are all deep-rooted cultural area that tend to violate the rights of children. So we were able to successfully roll out some of these policies so that the children will be able to meaningfully participate in decision making. Now, at the Chile level project, we have been successful to engage children to be part of the global, to be part of the African regional groupings, the global grouping. So these are all meaningful participation of children. But what is the challenge? The challenge has been budgeting for children. Yeah. Like in the House of Parliament, you don't have children participating meaningfully in the budget to make decisions on the budget, because the budget does not represent the meaningful participation of children in the country at the government level. So in most instances that you have the Day of the African Child, United Nations Children Day, International Girls Day, you found more partners that are contributing towards it. More partners are contributing. So you have limited participation of children when it comes to budget preparation. In that is the challenge that we have. So Mustafa, do you have any other thing to say about that? Do you have any input to make when it comes to child participation?
Yeah, thanks so much, for this particular forum. First of all, I want to begin with the rural setting. In the rural setting, there have been significant impact as it relates to children participation, where we get the girls and young women that have been trained on how to roll out advocacies and lobby about girls' participation, community providing safe space for women and girls into leadership. And there have been good signs, actually, more especially for the Chile project and at the county level. But at the national level, it needs more strengthening because the Children Parliament, they need certain support that will enable them to do their advocacy effectively. So for now, there are stuff.
In addition to what, okay. So in addition to what Mustafa has just said, now child participation at the level of the schools in our project community, you found out that more girls are not taking leadership positions in the schools. They are now being elected as president of the schools. Even in senior, the bigger high school that is there, you found out that a female from the Chile project was elected as president for the school, then followed by the secretary general for the school. So even in some churches now, you now have some more our girls and youth grouping. They are not taking all the space. You see, the space require equal participation and equal right for children, and so we are now seeing children having a space. I think last year, a young woman from the Chile group for the secondary beneficiary was elected a member of the House of Parliament in Liberia for Birmingham, the Central District number 1. And that campaign was spearheaded by the Chile girls clubs that are not transformed themselves into CBOs. So these are the successes and the challenges when it comes to child participation.
Thank you very much, and Mustafa, for that. I think you have echoed what Manav has said previously on budgeting and children being invited to participate massively during various celebrations like the Day of the African Child, Women's Day and such. You also spoke of the budgeting situation and the budget issue. Can actually say, and also I think Happiness and Faustina said the same. We can think that in Africa we are dealing with that, but the aspect that you brought in on children's participating into the the national budget allocation. Yeah. So how do you think we can accomplish that also? As what Mustafa said, how do you think we can support children to better participate in parliament or in parliamentary discussions?
So as it relates to the support, right now, this is the best time. We have a lot of laws and policies that we want to put into place. And this, since we are having an election time, I think more policymakers who want to be elected, we agree with us in pushing some of these laws and policy at the parliament. So everybody want to be, they want to seek attention that yes, they are working in the best interest of children. Like, for example, that the foster care policy that we are drafting to be submitted to the ministry and the agency. Then we have another policy that have to do with the exploitative, combating the exploitative form of child domestic workers. These are all things we want to do. Then the next thing, these are all policies that give greater participation for children in decision making. Then we are also reviewing the children law because the children law is too ambiguous. So we are now trying to submit it in Parliament so that it can be amended. Because some provisions talk about child participation. They say every year there should be an election, and which of course is overly ambiguous. The resources are limited to judge election every year. So we are working on that. There's amended procedures, and it's, the law also states that the child welfare committee should be established in every towns and villages, which of course is overly ambitious. So we think how we can narrow it down, maybe to district or county level. So it will also enhance child participation. And equal participation of girls and young women also been highlighted within the children law, so that it will be amended before the election, 2023, October 10. So we are moving on that. So there are a lot of policy advocacy and a lot of policy change. There's another law that we're trying to, is already in Parliament, the current sexual reproductive health and rights for girls and young women. So we want to see how best that can be pushed out. Then we look at the laws on FGM, okay, because that hinders child participation, because decisions are made by either. We want to see how best that law can be passed. So if these laws are passed, then we will try to transform the law to a simplified version where children will know their right, they will know in what area they're supposed to participate. So these are things that we are working towards at the national level.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for that, Fode. I want to also invite Cecile, if you have any questions that you think would feed further the proposal.
Okay, before Cecile can come, I wish to extend my apology for coming late because I have been sick over the weekend. I've not been too well. I've been working very, very hard from May to June, so I've not been feeling too. As you can see my face, you will know that I'm just trying to recuperate.
Sorry for that, and thank you so much for joining, even if you're not feeling so well. Cecile, is there any specific question?
Yes, thank you so much, Prodige. I just wanted to know whether for DCI Liberia or DCI Sierra Leone, how a consortium like DCI with Terriendo Redes and Dynamo could support the children in your countries or in your communities. What are like the needs and how best we can support their participation online or offline? Thank you so much.
So we are open to it. We have been receiving some support, technical support from the global desks when it comes to child participation. Children have been engaged online for some time now, but we have not seen it full coming like before. So we are open to it, and we will be happy that you can provide some of this capacity building to our children in Liberia in order to meaningfully participate in decision making, not only at the community level, not only at the country level, but at the national and the global level.
Thank you for the Manav. Cecile, can I also extend the same question to Zambia and Ghana?
Yes, of course, Prodige. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Happiness and Lydia and Faustina, is there any needs that you think the consortium can help you best to support the participation of children?
For Zambia, our first support will be funding, because we're currently operating on limited. We just have one donor who's more with little funds, because we're just supporting projects as a CSO. So for us, it will be funding and also training on child participation, because we want to roll it out more in schools, but also to involve teachers. We need some training so that at least teachers can be engaged, because we're thinking if we're to involve teachers and maybe even community leaders, it will help child participation to be more sustainable. As one speaker alluded, that as they grow, sometimes they end up forming other clusters. So for us, if maybe teachers or other community members are trained, it will enable child participation to be continuous, teachers to at least train them and groom the newer groups, and that will enable continuity. So that's the support we'd need from Zambia.
Thank you. Can I just add something from there, and maybe just mention not to limit the capacity building and such only to the children, but also to the various colleagues too, on how to have maybe a more child-friendly approach to meetings and things, and not only meetings, but also in the various grassroots activities. Yes, Manav.
Okay, thank you. I think for participation, we need to take it to another level now, because where we are, as we have all said, we are doing a lot of programs with children in schools at community level, but where we have the challenge is to really have a systematic government programs, government mechanisms to allow children to fully participate, contribute to budgeting, and a whole lot of decisions. So for the new consortium, I think one of the areas we can really capture is how can we have the support to work with the very children and young people's groups that we have been working with now as partners, to really advocate to the government to establish these mechanisms or make provisions for these mechanisms. So the laws are there, they might be improved, But let's say, for example, if government develops an annual plan, of course, in that process, children should take part in developing or in drafting development plans. And for the different levels of major decision-making processes, this is how children should participate in. So, for example, in Sierra Leone, the ministries and the, I think in October, if this is part of the plan, there should be a budget assigned to participate in this process every year. And there should be mechanisms for that. And you can extend that to various other decision-making processes. So we need to really engage government to budget for child participation and plan for it, and also ensure that those plans are actually linked to government decision-making processes. So this is really, I think, what we need to do at national level. At community level, as I said earlier, we still continue to do the mapping of decision-making processes and see how we can also ensure our youths, especially the girls and young women, can participate, and they are also recognized as youths, not only boys. I mean, she leads, for example, one of the structures we have mapped that we are really working with now to ensure the young women. It's the youth structure. We have national youth structure, which is cascaded to regional, district, and community level. But all of them, the leaders, most of the participants, boys. So now we are even working with the Ministry of Youth and the National Commission for Youth to review the guidelines for the election of youths in these groups. So once we review that guidelines, one of the things we really want to ensure that it captures is that there should always have in the DCI national statute. There's no way we can now have the International Executive Council fair equal representation of men and women. So when you have policies like this, also first level youths are represented, that be meaningful. Then one of the things we are doing a lot at the She Leads, which we should, is how She Leads and other programs as well, how we can continue to expose our youth to participate in regional. So we have for them, they can participate. They can also become members. They know what is happening at AU level as far as children are.
Sorry, Manav, you're breaking off.
Probably also start becoming leaders and also organizers. And we can take the same at the UN level. These ones, we have the experience now in Africa, but even more at the UN level. Cecile, Alex, and others, we have done a lot of work in, for example, bringing children or girls to Geneva, or even connecting them online to participate. So this is something ensuring that these children and youth we work with, they always contribute to a reporting process of regional and international mechanisms or instruments. So for CRC reporting, we should always have them to participate. Reporting of Maputo Protocol or the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, or UPR, or SDGs, we should have good experience in areas, try to strengthen them and really ensure that these are the niches of DCI. These are our expertise, if I can call it that way. Lastly, linked to the national, but even for ourselves. Now we are together with the IS. We are trying to work with how do you call it? To really start working with the government to develop tools for child participation, and also some of the things I'm talking about. So we need our own tools as an organization, but also need to start supporting to involve. We are doing this today, involve children, but we should be on that.
Sorry, Manav, the last bit we lost you, but I think you were talking about having tools, our own tools as DCI to child participation. Okay, I think his connection is shaking once more. Faustina, Lydia, and Happy. Oh, sorry, Happy. You've already said, but Faustina and Lydia.
PresentaTheon, I would want to talk on the I think the digital environment. Cecile mentioned them. Here in Ghana, the issue we have is how safe these children are on the digital spaces, in as much as we are promoting child participation. And another challenge is that even in the schools, even though the government has given them access to computers and laptops, issues about internet connectivity is also a problem. So in as much as the government is creating that space for them, the connectivity is a problem, and even how to ensure that these children are also safe on these spaces is another issue. So maybe moving forward, it is one of the advocacy campaigns we as DCI can start. I am sure it might not be limited to only Ghana, but maybe other countries are also having similar challenges. So it's one advocacy strategy we can also use to increase children's participation in the digital environment.
Thank you so much for that, Faustina. Actually, it's going to feed into our next discussion after the break, which will be talking on amplifying voices through media and technology. So if there are no other contributions for now, we can maybe take a 10 minutes break and then proceed at, okay, maybe not, 10 minutes. We can proceed at 2. No, at, we can come back at 2 p.m. in East Africa. That would be, what time? What time is it in Sierra Leone, Manav?
3 hours. There's always 3 hours. You are always 3 hours ahead. So if you are talking about 2 p.m., it should be 11.
Yeah, we can put it at 11 if that's okay with everyone. So our next conversation will be on the media and technology and how we can use such to amplify children's voices and their right to participation. It's very okay, very cold currently, but quite okay. Politically speaking, there's a bit of insecurity because the newer government has been very harsh with their new legislations, and it's very much affecting the cost of living, which is also prompting the opposition to have strikes almost every other, or protest almost every other week. Yeah, so it's cold and also quite scary, scarier than how Nairobi usually is normally. How is Liberia?
Yes, I'm getting the political uncertainty that is taking place in Kenya, where especially William Ruto. Yes, I've been following event in Kenya. Yes, I've been following event in Kenya, Nigeria, and the latest is Sierra Leone. I'm following the activities on the BBC.
Yeah.
Legua, I'm monitoring situation as it relates to the new president, His Excellency William Ruto. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a lot of challenges and political uncertainty when it comes to Nairobi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's becoming. It's not something that Kenya is used to. Kenya is relatively very peaceful, and the previous governments, yes, they've been problematic, but the Ruto government is proving to be much more problematic than the others. So there is a lot of uncertainties, but yeah, we're just hopeful that despite everything, Kenya will continue being peaceful. Even though today or last night there was an Al-Shabaab attack, a terrorist attack in Malindi, I believe. But I think the government has chosen not to talk a lot about it, not to spread fear. But yeah, which is another aspect that we're looking at, human rights speaking. The media is being attacked. Not a lot of truthful things are being spoken of. Yeah, so it's very, very uncertain, very new for Kenya. But yeah, we are still very hopeful.
That's it. We are praying because Kenya is the giant in East Africa.
Yeah.
And they have been one of the most peaceful countries, but you only experience violence in Kenya when it comes to election.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the only point of violence for Kenya, and it's only gotten really bad in 2007, I think 2007. That was the only time that it went to like really, really bad. The other times it's been just protests, and of course people maybe being killed within the protests and such. So there haven't been a big civil issue. But now I'm not very sure how things would happen. Yeah, it's again very uncertain and very new, but we are still monitoring and yes, hoping for the best. I know I've said it a lot, but yeah, that's all that there is to do.
So what is the situation of the Doomsday Church?
Okay, the Doomsday Church. So far, there are 300 plus graves that have been exhumed. So 300 and counting. The lead of the lead of the cult has been arrested, of course, but also investigation is ongoing with other churches, and a lot of restrictions are coming up on newer churches and pastors and a lot of religious organizations. Yeah, just so that they can try to prevent what happened. But also a newer report has shown that the government actually issued the right to bury to this cult leader. So bringing in the issue of corruption. So he must have paid someone within the ministry to give him that permit to bury. Yeah, that led to all these burials and all this death unnoticed.
Wow.
So
yeah, because because I even follow one of the activities, I follow the news, and a lady who decided to even fast to her death. Even when they took her to the safe home, she insisted that she wanted to fast up to her death, and she believed in it.
Yeah.
So they took her to the psychiatry.
Oh, wow. So there's been a victim within the doomsday cult in Liberia, or is it new?
No. It is the issue of doomsday cult is new to us from Kenya. But we've been having a church, almost like a court again, but not as it relates to doomsday. They call it Never Die.
Okay.
And they call it the Never Die Church. It used to exist before, but it had been dissolved. Our former president dissolved that group. And that church, there's no brother, there's no sister in that church. There's nobody owns a wife in that church. There's no one owns a husband in that church. And they believe that they will never die. So meaning, in our church, when it was established, everybody owned a husband, the male, and everybody owned a female. So you can love to any female in our church, and the female can love to any male in our church. So the court said never die. So, and typically they were practicing incest as well.
Oh no.
In our church. They call them never die, yes. I mean, they believe in that doctrine that God created Adam and Eve. And Adam, God created Adam and Eve, and Adam born King and Abel, and King killed Abel, and Abel went to the Far East and married a woman. So because of that philosophy, they believe that no one is your sister in the church. Oh, everybody is your wife. Yes.
That's horrible.
Yes. So you see that with that kind of mindset, but they fail to realize that there was a special commandment in the Bible that restrict people from committing incest and loving to your cousin, your first cousin, and wife is in the Bible. But for them, from that book of Genesis, they were from their philosophy. Yes. Yeah. So they had that church.
Yeah.
And so when the public got to know about the doctrine of that church, the president ordered that, in fact, they arrested everybody, put them in jail. From there, send the women and the children to safe home. And they told them, and they demolished their entire shrine. And from that day, that church has been dissolved.
But
yes.
it has been closed, though.
Coming.
The church has it been shut down, or it's still?
In fact, it has been shut down. It has been eliminated. It's never to exist again.
Oh, okay, good.
So I mean, the people of Kenya, they took a long time for 300 people to die.
Oh wow!
From a church, a doomsday church. I don't know what.
Yeah.
You fast to die.
Goodness, it's really a new wave, I think. Even in Kenya and in Africa, just to have cults like this, or maybe it's old, but we are just finding them out right now. Oh yeah, so I think most have joined back. So maybe we Manav can join us back once he returns, but he will follow us as we're continuing our discussion. Yeah, so in the agenda right now, we are now going to talk on the amplifying voices of children and youth through media and technology. I want to open the discussion for anyone who has an experience or who has worked with the youth and children and worked also with media to tell us a bit more on how this was done. We want to look at access to information, how to get children and youth to participate safely in digital platforms. We want to also have media literacy, look at multimedia tools for expression. If we can also have any innovative ways where children can participate. It could also be through digital storytelling and digital advocacy. Right now, I think it's even in Africa, we can say that it's a huge thing, digital advocacy especially. We have seen youth like the girl from Uganda, the climate activist. She has had such an impact in the work of climate change and such, and this has mostly been done through digital activism. She's used her Twitter, her Facebook, just to bring about change and advocate for a better sustainable world. And this has led her, we've seen her go to the UN to talk to member states and world leaders. So in that context, that's what we want to see, how we can use the media and technology to improve child participation. So the floor is open if you have any ideas or if you have any experience. Please feel free.
Let me come in. When it comes to digital advocacy, we have been looking at children engaging the media. Mm-hmm. That is the radio station. We have formed a WhatsApp group for the Chile girls who are actively benefiting from the Chile project. They have a WhatsApp group. All of them are in this WhatsApp group where they share experience, learning experience using the WhatsApp page. Now they have opened their Facebook page, although I don't have access to it, but I'm aware that they have that, and we supported that kind of platform for them to be able to learn and share experience of activities that is taking place. So then the next thing is that we are then engaging them with the media, the electronic media, where they are amplifying their voices. When it comes to the reduction of violence against girls, young women, social political participations. So those young girls, they have been actively involved into those activities. We have been using the media. And they have training have been going on as well when it comes to participating in the media, even their applications for their applications to the global network that is ongoing. We are being engaging and we are making them to have their own accounts. The country coordinator of the Chile project in Liberia helped them tremendously. Now they can apply online and they can conduct some research online. Yes, that is it. But one of the biggest challenge in Africa is that more especially Liberia. The internet facility is just limited to very few people. The access, internet connectivity is in some rural area is very poor. You cannot get the kind of connection. If I were in Lofa, I would not participate like this as to you, because there will be a lot of challenges when it comes to internet connectivities. Even sometimes in Bomi, there's a challenge in internet connectivities. Maybe in Monrovia and a bigger city, yes, you can get a very good internet railway strength to make you to communicate to the outside world. But besides that, it's skewed to certain communities and villages. And not all of the children can afford to be on a digital platform. Yes, except in bigger city in Liberia, yes, we can have the opportunity. Then also we formed a partnership and collaboration with Internet Watch Foundation. And that has to do with the abuse of the internet, exploiting children by the means of the internet, using some means the saboteur. So we are member of the Internet Watch Foundation, and we normally post our information up on Facebook so that parents can be aware about the abuse of children on the internet. So we are working in collaboration with the Internet Watch Foundation. So these are some things that we are doing seriously. And we also have some partnership and collaboration with a group in the UK on protecting children online. We call them on protecting children online. That is the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They are collaborating with the University of Notre Dame. We are also helping us in terms of having webinars with us and giving us some key information how we can prevent and respond to the misuse of the internet to exploit children on the internet. So these are some of the experience and contributions I have when it comes to internet. Yes, the digital internet environments, yes, according to the team for the EU, providing the space for digital internet environment for all children, yes. But again, you know, African government capacity when it comes to providing some of these facilities, they don't prioritize it. And sometimes when these children try to take advantage of it, if you are not mistaken, they are exploited and abused on the internet. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Fode. And it's good to know that at least even in the consortium, there will be some sort of partnership with a specific foundation that has, that watches, or rather that deals with child safeguarding online. How do you think we can expand partnership with the foundation, Fode? How do you think the consortium can explore just to bring about child participation?
Oh, well, I can remember there was a training that was conducted by EPA during the Girl Advocacy Alliance. And I went in Nairobi. It was just a 3-day training. I went to Nairobi and I met this group. I even recommended DCR Sierra Leone. Yep. I think they are a member of that. I don't know how well they are collaborating. So you can take advantage of that. Okay, even if they are not in your country, I could write and recommend a specific institution so that they can also benefit from that kind of network and collaboration.
Okay, so we can have training sessions or capacity building for the staff, or do you think it would also be okay, or it's feasible for them to have a capacity building sort of activity for the children themselves? Like, I remember we have.
So the first thing you have to form a part, you have to write them. I could give the email address. You could write them, expressing your desire to have partnership and collaboration, and you want them, children, to take advantage of some of the capacity building training that you have in your specific country. And I'm sure they will respond to you when it comes to partnership and collaboration. You get a lot of them, yes. So right. I could send the names, the email addresses, and if you write them, they will be able to respond because they want to expand in most of the African.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, you can share that information with me or Cecile, but my question was more on, because forming another newer partnership would be, I think it would be very extensive. So my question was more on, is there a way through your own partnership with them as DCI Liberia, is there a way to ask now for them to support the consortium? Because in the project, it's not going to just be DCI sections. In this current meeting, yes, we only have DCI sections, but for tomorrow, we have other countries joining us in the French-speaking countries. So would it be possible to bring in the whole consortium, because we already have that linkage with the foundation through DCI Liberia?
Well, I can only write them and tell them, but they will, because they are their own policy. But I know someone who and myself work together at IWF, and she's now with the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yes, Zoe, I think Zoe, yes, she's from the UK. I could contact her whether there's a possibility, and that she will give me time to respond to it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we can add to that. So again, for context, there's a concept paper that has already been submitted at the EU level. So what we are doing now is the information that is going to come out of here will feed the full proposal once the concept note has been approved. And that should be at the end of July, I believe. We should be able to receive a feedback from the EU whether we will proceed. So yeah, this is in short to feed the potential projects with the EU. So thank you so much. And having already such a connection with such a foundation, it seems very, very promising. Thank you so much, Fode, for that. Is there any other section that would like to contribute on the challenges and the lessons and possibilities to having children participate online?
Prodit?
Yes, Happy.
I'd like to just thank you. I would like to just comment on our Zambia section. At Zambia, we have a radio program called The Right Joint, which is aimed at talking about children's rights and all the issues that concern children and human rights. So with us in the call, I have Vanessa, who's a junior mayor for Lusaka. So she gets to participate in this radio program. So she would like to just talk to us and tell us how her experience has been and just to contribute on that topic. Thank you. I can hand over to Axilia.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Axilia. Wow, that's an interesting name. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Speaking from Zambia, the debate radio that Madam Happiness talked about is one that I have actively taken part. So this debate radio, we had it when I was a participant last year, and we talked, and our main concentration that we talked about was the plight of circumstantial children. And through that radio station, as the young people, the children were the ones that were involved, and had to like do research about what circumstantial children is and everything, how they are found in the, how they're found with the incarcerated mothers. And it's actually a good program, because it got us, the young people, the young children, involved digitally with what's happening in our country, because these are issues that we actually didn't know of, and were able to like get more information about this. And a lot of people participated from schools. We had different schools actually on this debate program, but different schools. And this program was also live on Facebook, on the radio station, where we had many people commenting from like different parts of our country, Zambia. And actually it's a good program. And we didn't just end there. We continued, it continued. So after the debate, we'd also have talks like every Friday, where we just talk about issues that are affecting the children in our country, Zambia, and how we would find solutions. Through the discussions that would have young people commenting about the issues that they're facing, and they would also recommend some of the solutions to the problems that we, the children and the young people of Zambia, are actually facing. And I think this is something that I've actively been part of, and of which I have I've learned a lot as a young person in Zambia, and others have also benefited from this, because from the radio station who had testimonials to say, no, we didn't know this, but we now know about this plight of circumstantial children.
Okay, thank you so much, Axelia, for that. So the program also teaches children on their rights and the youth?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. It did teach them about their rights. Because if we look at the topic that we covered about circumstantial children, we got to like expand it more to look at the rights of these children, and also not only that, the rights of other children as well. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That is an excellent an excellent way to show how we can use the media and technology. My question is, for other sections, is it feasible to have such a program happening in your various countries? Is there maybe a possibility of partnering with a radio station in your various countries? Maybe because I think it's quite interesting to have children participate and debate on various aspects of that in their rights. But if we can have something focused on child participation, and I know, like, we're talking about our cultural context, and we saw that in many cases, children would not be able to participate, especially girls, because of their various domestic, domestic tasks. But also culturally speaking, we can also see that many children's opinions are not actually taken into consideration. They are very, overlooked. Even if it's within the context of decisions that will affect their lives, like their day-to-day lives, their views and opinions are not very much taken into consideration. So is it an okay thing to say or to assume that within CI we can form some sort of collaboration with a radio station or media house to have such a program going on? Maybe I can hear from Faustina and Lydia for Ghana.
PresentaTheon, I'll say yes. In the Ashanti region, we have forged a partnership with about 5 media houses. They include both the TV, the radio, and the online. And even at the national level, we are also in partnership with some media houses. And most of the advocacy, which are being led by the children and the girls and young women, are done through the radio and the TV stations. And I remember last year, it was quite intensive, to the extent that some children were fortunate to be on TV, and afterwards the exposure was great. People would see them, and now they recognize them as role models for their peers. So it's something we are already doing, and we hope to strengthen our partnership with the media. But one challenge with the media is the fact that some of their reports are not child-friendly, gender-sensitive. But fortunately for us, the media houses we are working with, we took them through a training. And we were fortunate for one of their regional coordinators to facilitate that section. So he highlighted more on the media ethics, especially the reporting ethics. So we don't really have problem with the media houses we are working with, but at the larger media organizations within Ghana, sometimes the kind of languages that comes out is not really friendly. I think that's what I can say.
Okay, yeah, I see. And that's where, again, now we're seeing the connection between the thing that Fode said about the foundation, the Internet Foundation, but also how we can have a good relationship with media houses and have them through a training to have a child-friendly language, but also being very gender sensitive. Lydia, is there any addition to that for Ghana?
Yes, so for Ghana, I remember in last 2 years, yes, we had national media training for all the media houses that the partners are working with, and they went through a lot of training on how to report materials on children engagement, and then even how to interview children and also getting their consent and everything. So for Ghana, I think with the media houses that we are working with, they abide by whatever training that we're giving to them. So we don't have any problem with the media houses that we engage with.
Okay, thank you. And again, bringing in the safeguarding policy that we have, I think in the upcoming, the updated one, I think there's going to be a tense for even partners. They have to sign our safeguarding policy, meaning each interaction with the child has to be consented, and not only wordly consented, but also have to be documented. So yeah, that's a good thing. Fode, do you think it would be possible to have such programs in Liberia?
Kami, are you talking to me?
Yes, I was asking. We have seen from Axelia and Happiness on how DCI Zambia has partnered with a radio station, and they have a child program which talks on child rights and teaches children their rights, and also including youth. So I was wondering, for Ghana, they also have a partnership in the Ashanti region. They have a partnership with 5 media houses, and at national level, they have 2, I believe. They did mention that it would be possible to have such it would be easy to have such a program going on with their various partnerships. So I was wondering, is it also something that is feasible in Liberia?
It means to have a partnership with institutions in Ghana?
Media,
is that what you're saying? Yeah, yes, we are open to that. We are open to that. Anyone who wants to have a partnership with us from Ghana, we wholeheartedly welcome that initiative. Okay,
but is there any media house or any radio station or TV station that you as DCI Liberia have had a connection with?
Yeah, but normally we have a connection, but normally we paid. We don't use it free. We pay to access their facilities for the children. So like on the Chile program, we signed memorandum of understanding and we'll spare out the number of days and time that the children will be going to the media houses. So we gave some small token. Then the children are there having the access to their facilities and speak to the people who are calling and speak to the public as it relates to issues that affect them. Yes, we have been having that.
Okay. Is it the same thing for you, Faustina and Lydia? Is it the same thing? do you pay the media houses for them to have such a collaboration with you?
PresentaTon, I would say yes, but it's more or less like a token. We don't really pay the fees we are expected to be charged because of the partnership. So sometimes when we go there, we just give them a token to show our appreciation to them. But we don't go through the formal system of paying such an amount to hold a media program. And another unique thing about it is that sometimes they even call us for a free airtime to discuss issues on their spaces. And I also know of one media rep who has given an airtime to girls groups and some champions of change for a particular day to always come and talk about gender equality and girls leadership on their airwaves.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. So your partnership has already been settled. So you do not necessarily pay, but it's a token of appreciation.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Adzelia, might you know whether in Zambia you make payment to have time on air?
Hello, and sorry.
Yes, Lydia, sorry. That Fode has just mentioned that for them to have such a space with radios and TVs, they have to pay, and it's quite expensive. So I was wondering and then Faustina has said for them, they have a corporation which allows them not to make such a huge payment. So I was wondering, is it the same in Zambia? Do you also make a huge payment? I'm just trying to see on the feasibility of having such a space throughout Africa in DCI.
Thank you, Prodi. For us, we're in partnership with a certain radio station, so that allows us to have different programs with them, because they are also more into community work. So we partnered with them. That's why we're able to do programs with them. But ideally, we're supposed to pay a lot of money, of course. So our advantage is that we had this partnership with the radio station, and that's why we're able to have programs with them.
All right. So also not paying.
Yes, not paying.
So the challenge here so far, we can say, is if we continue with this idea, it would be to have it would be payment in Liberia.
I would suggest maybe other sections also try partnering with radio stations, community radio stations. That can also help. That can really be helpful, because us is more of a community radio station, but it has wide coverage across the country.
Okay. What does your collaboration, what does your MOU look like? Because I think it would be really nice to have such an idea.
I wish PresentaTon was on the call. Yeah, PresentaTon is here. He can answer to that.
Okay,
welcome,
PresentaTon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that MOU stipulates that there should be some fundraising together. So the two organizations are supposed to fundraise together.
Okay, fundraise together. Okay.
We create space for the radio station in terms of the platform. For instance, we have children that we work with. And so we're able to provide a platform. But the most important thing about that MOU is that the two organizations are supposed to raise funds together and do activities that are focusing on child participation.
All right. Okay. So, okay, thank you for that. So why you are not making a payment is because you are in a fundraising partnership. Yeah, so we've identified the possible challenges. Is there any other challenge? Faustina spoke of the child friendliness and gender sensitivity of media houses is a challenge. So is there any other challenge that you may say is there in your various countries to working with the media?
I guess the other thing is that the media does not regard child protection as a significant issue. There's just a few organizations that amongst the media that will really understand the importance of child protection. And they always think that children are not significant. You know, when you're looking at the media and the way they are set up, they feel that big people make news. So when you are dealing with children, it's like you are not making news. You know what I mean? So that's the challenge. And for us, it's also to train the media, provide training for the media so that they understand that child protection is an issue. And also how to report on issues of children. Because sometimes you can be reporting and actually abusing the children.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of training the media on the best way to report issues of children. Yeah, and also talking to the editors, the editor-in-chief of these organizations, the media institutions, so that they can create space, you know, whether it's in a newspaper or on radio, just for them to deliberately create space for child participation.
All right. Okay. So child protection is not taken into consideration by the media, but also how they report on child issues is more in violation than protection of child rights. That's another challenge. Is there any other one? Maybe Mustafa or Fode?
For my end, for my observation and the past experience working with the media houses, as it relates to child protection issues, more especially girls advocating for their rights and to lobby in order to be absorbed into leadership, media houses also need to be trained on how to do girls advocacies, because without the capacity training, it will be difficult for them to really realize what type of message they need to send out there.
Okay, child-specific messages or girls' rights messages.
Yeah. Like what he's saying, because the confidentiality of those girls has to be protected when it comes to them being victim or survivor of gender-based violence. Sometimes some of this media grouping, they don't know how to pull out some of the messages. Sometimes, and it is not intentional, but at times the message tend to stigmatize those girls. So they have to be, their capacity have to be built and how to uphold what we refer to as confidentiality. So that's some of the challenges we have with some media grouping when it comes to the issue of confidentialities, because some information we disclose it for children, it may tend to stigmatize them, it may tend to isolate them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So those are the challenges. We've already heard the experience and the opportunities from Zambia. What tools would you say, for example, would be best in engaging children and young people, except from radio and TV? Which other or digital platform in your various countries, what would you say are the best used digital platforms? The question was, which, as a young person, what tool would you say is best, digital tool would be best to represent or to engage with young people?
On my part, this is something that I have maybe, yes, seen and gone through. So for young people, if let's say, for example, on Facebook, and then you want to sensitize about human rights, then there's a long paragraph. It's kind of, it's like a way of now pushing us away from reading the information. I think this is something that I have seen, say, young people rather, they love things that are interesting to them. Yes, I was supposed to, like, let's say there's a long paragraph. For us to get the information, supposed to read it and get it and understand it. But reality now, the facts are that is not how it is now. So I think the best way is maybe to, like, let's say, for example, we take for example, we find platforms that where youths are more actively taking videos. If there was a way to, like, maybe find a way, an interesting way of disseminating the information, let's say about the information about the rights of children, we use TikTok, not really making it fun, but just adding some things that are childrenish things. Yes, childrenish, speaking from a child perspective. So if we're to add some, things that are really nice to the children and things that would, like, attract the children on these platforms, that would really help, I think. Yes.
So in your opinion, you would suggest the use of TikTok more than Facebook and Twitter?
Either way, let me just say either way, as long as the content has along with it something that is interesting to the young people.
Keep it very short, but interesting. Faustina?
Yes, Freddie, I would say for Ghana, most of the group meetings are done on the WhatsApp and the Telegram. They feel more comfortable mobilizing themselves on these two platforms to discuss their own concerns. But when it comes to advocacy and activism, it's mostly done on Twitter and Instagram. I think Facebook, it's not really used, but the Instagram and the Twitter is often used for advocacy.
This is quite interesting. My question now for this, is there any other maybe suggestion on which platform is best to use when talking with youth and children? Okay, so my question on those that have been mentioned so far, for example, I know TikTok has an issue. Right now, there is a lot of talk on TikTok on how it is not very safe for children to use. There's too much content that is not child-friendly on TikTok, and I believe their policies are not very protective of children. WhatsApp is a little bit better, but Telegram also not very child-friendly. Twitter much better, and also Instagram. Is there a way that we can guarantee child protection and safeguarding using the not so friendly platforms? I know for TikTok, for example, there's so many organizations that have official.
Yeah, can I come in? Well, looking at, for instance, looking at country context and what is common, because what is widely used, which platform are being widely used by young people, by country context, like in Liberia, mainly is Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm talking about country context and what is widely used, which platform is widely used in Liberia. These are the 4 platforms actually that for me, I'm aware of. So I don't know. How can we be able to generalize it that will be in uniformity with the CD project?
Okay, so I think you have mentioned WhatsApp, Twitter, and Instagram.
I said WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook, and Instagram. Okay. I'm talking about Liberia now.
Okay.
To my knowledge, and what I have observed, that have been widely used, by young people.
Okay.
On social media platforms.
Yeah, except from Facebook, I think those are relatively safer platforms. And yeah, how we can generalize this is by looking at each country's context. For example, Zambia has said that they use all platforms, but the problem is the content is not very interesting to young people, so they just completely ignore it. For Ghana, we spoke of Twitter, Telegram, and WhatsApp. So yeah, we can already generalize that at least within DCI, the most used are WhatsApp, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, it had some issues security-wise, so yeah. But we can still always use all of them, just as long as we make it. I think in the consortium we might have a very specific advocacy, a very specific message, and a guide on how we can we would utilize the messages and when to utilize the messages. I believe the communication will be quite strong on that. So yeah, as long as we have a young people to guide us on the type of information and how to deliver it to best have their response and their collaboration, then yeah, I think we can just say this one we have already concluded and understood which ones to be used. I'm not sure if Cecile, she had taken a break. I'm not sure if she's back. Cecile, are you back?
Talking about these other platforms that are not children friendly for using, I don't know if it's possible, just a suggestion, to kind of maybe make them flexible for the use of children. For my part in Zambia, I think I've seen most of the children, maybe from the ages of 14, especially those that have access to smartphones, most of them are kind of, they are using more of TikTok because of the funny videos that they find there, and of which is like catchy to them. So if it was possible to just kind of put in policies that could be friendly to the children, to us children when they're using these platforms.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you so much. So the suggestion would be to maybe advocate for better policies within countries protecting children on such platforms. Is that the suggestion?
Yes.
Okay. And yes, indeed, this will further their participation in decision-making processes online and have a much better reach when it comes to advocacy, digital advocacy. Yeah, so thank you for that. I'm just looking at the agenda. So right now, we should be moving towards strengthening child-led organization and youth groups. Here, the general agreement was for Ghana to have a bit of a presentation on their sharing their experiences and success stories. But of course, we're also going to continue the panel discussions on the challenges and opportunities faced by child-led organizations and youth groups, and how we can have these how we can build on this to promote participation of children and youth. Ghana, so Faustina, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So I will share our experience, the Girls Advocacy Alliance and the Sheila's program. So I would say that there's an increased representation of children, especially the girl child, in assembly meetings. And I remember last year, getting to the latter part of last year, there was quite a number of girls advocates who were invited to these assembly general meetings. And it wasn't just about being represented there, but we were also given the opportunity to also share our views on what is troubling us as girls. And I remember some members of the assembly were quite interested in what Sheila's is doing, and the fact that if they also support us, the concerns of girls and young women would really go far. Then I'll also talk about the establishment of children's parliament and school-based clubs. This traces back from the Girl Power projects where we started forming clubs. But recently I've noticed the Ghana Education Service has also enrolled these initiatives in the schools. So almost majority of the schools you go, you would realize they are school-based clubs which have been training girls and sometimes boys on how best to live their lives, both in school and outside school. But the Children's Parliament has not really been sustainable because it was run by the project. So for us in DCI, because normally we work with existing groups and clubs, we have been able to at least manage them. But when it comes to having a group and leaving, working, once the project ends, how to keep these groups running by the government is a problem in Ghana. I also mentioned the recognition of children as important stakeholders in development. I think from this sheet list, one lesson we have learned, and it's a success story, is that now the assemblies and the departments recognize the voices of children whenever they are trying to develop their own plans. Recently, they requested for child representatives towards a review of the optional protocol on the sale of children, the child pornography, and I think sexual exploitation. In fact, it was quite great, the kind of responses that were coming in, even the kind of suggestions some children made when they were planning this. At some point, they said they were forming some committees, and there was a child who made mention that children suffer a lot of trauma whenever there's conflict and misunderstanding in their environment. Even though when they were proposing the committee, they didn't factor the health aspect of children, but now children recognize the fact that in the environment they find themselves, if there is anything that poses a threat to them, it also has a trauma. So then now they want the committees to also include health practitioners. And in fact, they received it very well, because after she spoke, someone also made mention and highlighted the fact that what she said was really true. And there is more visibility and activism of girls on the media spaces. Now, you realize a lot of girls and young women are always on the media talking, highlighting issues, especially during international key moments. Now you realize there's a lot of advocacy ongoing. Recently, during the Day of the African Child, they prepared a communique highlighting their concerns, and the communique was published. So I would say in terms of advocacy and activism of these girls and children, girls and the young women, it is quite visible in Ghana. Then now the advocates have also been moderating and facilitating regional and district level programs, which we see it as a great success to our programs, because at first you realize some were shying away, but now we have created that spaces for them. So when you call them to come and deliver, they will do excellent. And recently, the Day of the African Child, we had an in-house section before we joined the webinar, and you realize it was a girl child who was facilitating, and everyone was happy. And because of this facilitating and moderating of programs, now the girls have also started initiating their own outreach programs in their schools. And these programs were initiated by the clubs in the schools. And I think a typical example is the day, AU Day, they did a short presentation. They facilitated gave a short presentation on, I think, the human rights issues which affect children and the issues about child marriages. And they also wrote their key messages nicely on placards, showing it to their colleagues on what they want them to do to live a better life. And as part of that, there were a lot of other entertainment programs just to make them know that as children, you need to protect yourself in as much as you want others to protect you. And during the International Women's Day and the World Menstrual Hygiene Day, you realize these, there were a lot of outreach programs which were led by these girls, and they were doing their own thing. So I think all of these makes us understand that the Girl Power Project, the GA and the Sheilis have been very, very successful, even though we have not gone to the end of the project, but the kind of initiatives and the kind of responses we are receiving from girls and young women, children, we could see that it is really impacting on their lives. And if we are to do more, I believe it will even go beyond our own expectations. So these are the little I can share on our experiences working with them.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Faustina, Lydia, you'd like to add?
Okay, so I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yes, very well.
Okay, so just to add one thing to all that Faustina has said is that I've realized that now when there's a call of application for girls to apply for certain positions or programs, I see that now most of the girls are willing to apply for those call for applications, because previously it wasn't that I'll be calling on the girls to apply for this position is available, we have to apply. But now when the call is shared or is disseminated, I receive a lot of applications from the girls, and then most of them are very young, and I think that's one thing that I'm happy about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's good to see that young people and children are very much interested in such collaborations. What are the challenges? Unless there is also Fode and Mustafa who'd like to share a bit more on the strengthening of child-led organizations and youth groups. But my question is, what are the challenges that we have faced in strengthening these child-led organizations? Is there truly any child rights or child-led organization that we are working with, or is it just mostly youth group-led organizations?
Pradesh, with the groups we are working with, most of them are clubs which are already formed, whether from the Girl Power, the She Leads, or the Girls Advocacy Alliance. And like I said, some of the groups have already been formed by the Ghana Education Service. So we have been working with these groups, but not necessarily a child rights organization. And we are also working with youth groups. But one thing I've noticed is that as part of our challenges is that there's still societal misconception about child participation. Sometimes you engage with them and you realize even when there are issues of concern and these girls or a child wants to come out to talk, they feel you were a child, you are not supposed to talk. When you talk, it's more or less like a taboo, more or less like a taboo. So now sometimes children feel a bit intimidated and they feel a bit stigmatized when they are issues. I remember when we went for the review for the optional protocol, I noticed from the beginning, it's like they felt they were being conscious. They didn't want to, say something which would maybe later on put them in a very tight corner. But as the discussion was ongoing, I realized now the tension was released. And I felt it was because of the societal misconception, how society sees child participation. So whenever a child gets into an environment, they think they have to study the environment very well before they can participate, even though they are presented, but before they can participate. And I think another thing we here in Ghana is it's affecting us is the weak enforcement of laws on child participation. We have a nice law ensuring that children actively participate, but you realize I don't really see the enforcement there. So sometimes it's more or less like, yes, you have this guiding you, but when someone tries to do something, the person feels maybe there will be some opposition and some attack from somewhere. So now you are more conscious of yourself. It's one thing which is really affecting us as a country. And there's also inadequate awareness creation and education on child participation. And the reason is that if, as a country, we have intensified education on the need for child participation, I believe children will not feel intimidated when they come out to talk about issues. Sometimes, I think one of our colleagues made mention that sometimes you can create the space for the child, but for the child to even take advantage of the space is a problem, because he or she feels that, no, I'm not supposed to talk in my home. This is not how it's done. So even if I'm given the opportunity, I'm not supposed to do it. But if there has been an increased awareness creation and the importance of including the voices of children in our decision making, I think a lot of these issues we are facing would have been minimized. And now they are, even though children are coming up, but they are still children who have low confidence. To speak on regional and national platforms, sometimes you have to push them before they speak. I remember when we came for the Day of the African Child, you realized there were some who were quite vocal and they were willing to open up, but you realize there were some of them who were quite timid. They feel, no, I'm still not supposed to talk. But when they realized their colleagues were, making contributions, sharing their opinion, that was when you realize other girls and boys were also coming up and also highlighting their views. So I think these are some of the challenges. I'm sure it might cut across because of the societal, the sociocultural practices within our Africa region. It might cut across other regions, but these are some of the challenges we face.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Faustina, for bringing that up. Children not being confident enough to speak up in a adult full meeting, but also feeling intimidated by adults. So would you say that the best way to do this is to just make sure that within our own meetings as DCI, to make sure that children feel safe within that space to speak up and to take away any cultural knowledge that we have or a cultural practice that we have that would make children feel unwelcome to speak or their opinions not being valued?
Yes, I think in every meeting, we should, as much as possible, try and make them feel safe within the environment. Because there are certain meetings, sometimes when I enter the hall, I could easily sense that this room, the children might not really feel safe. Looking at the caliber of people in the room, they might not really feel safe. But if we create that enabling environment for them, you will realize now, like, the tension have been released and now they are able to actively engage in their discussions. So I think as DCI sections, we should really focus more on the room, the environment we are in. If we are bringing children to participate in them, how safe is the space for children? Because it's not just about them representing, but being able to meaningfully add their voices to decision making.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. How would you suggest, though, Lydia? Yes, you have an addition?
Yes. I just wanted to contribute. I don't know how. Well, let me just say it. I think one thing I've also learned is that we learn better, or we learn best from our peers. So if we have children participating in programs, then we have their age groups also, let me say, leading, maybe facilitating or doing something, I think they'll feel very safe to even voice out, also air their opinion. Other than that, if they are participating in a program and they are all being adult-led facilitation, that's where the intimidation comes in. And even sometimes the body might be there, but the mind might be somewhere else. So if we have children being part of such facilitation and everything, I believe that these children will also observe them, and they'll be able to learn better from what they are seeing from their colleagues. Thank you.
Okay. So one example on how we can make the space more free and more easy or child-friendly is to have the space being led by children themselves, and adults to be there just for guidance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Thank you so much. Is there any other suggestion or any other challenge that we have seen working with child-led organizations? But we have already established that as DCI per se, we do not work with child-led organizations, but we work with youth-led organizations. But how can we bring in now child-led organizations? Are there any child-led organizations in our various countries? How can we engage with them? And in our own meetings, how can we make sure that the space is free and child-friendly? Lydia has already given us an example, but is there any other?
We have a child-led organization, not only youth-led organization. We have child-led organization within our project communities, and we are also part of our beneficiaries. For example, the Children Club, the Liberia Children Representative Forum, these are all child-led organizations that we work with in our rural communities.
Okay. All right. And have you had any challenges working with this child-led organization? You said it's Children Rep Forum.
It's Child Right Representative Forum. It replaces the name Children Parliament because we feel that if you say Children Parliament, it will become too political.
Okay.
So yes. So yeah.
Okay. So the name Parliament made it too political for the children to engage.
Yeah. So it's now referred to the Child Representative Forum instead of Children Forum.
Yeah. My question was more on: are there any challenges or any success stories that you have had with this Child Rights Representation Forum? Representative.
Yeah, we have been having. Yeah, most of the children that we have been working with from the children clubs, from the level of the children clubs, then they integrate into the children forum, then before they come into the youth group. So we have been having a lot of success stories. Like I can remember the GAA, or the one Miata, she came from the children clubs, the child rep club. Then she integrated into the GA ambassador, and she was able to speak at the high-level political forum in 2020. High-level political forum, 2020. So that has been one of our success stories. And she currently now part of the Chile program. Yes, she just completed her high school. And we're trying to see how best we can integrate them. And some of them are even working, they are in our employ. Some of the children who came from children forum integrated into and girls champion. We have one that is working with us as a staff for DC Alabama. Yes. Right. So that is a success story for us.
Yeah, definitely.
And we intend to do more of that.
All right. And are there any challenges that you've faced or are facing?
Yeah, there are some challenges that we face because migration is one of the factors that we face. And we have rural urban migration. Some of the children migrate into the city, into the bigger city. We lose focus, we lose track of them. Some of them, because their parent, maybe because of job opportunity, their parent migrate with them to another city or another communities or counties. You know, so that are some of the challenges that we have been having. Some other challenges that we've been having is the proliferation of FGM that we have been fighting. These are some challenges that we have been having with respect to retaining some of these children. Some of the children, the COVID interrupted their schools, and as a result, migration has to take place. So we have some of these challenges, yes.
Okay. And in the aspect of FGM, how has this affected your collaboration with the child-led organizations? Or is it just FGM and then brings in child marriage? Or what is exact? Could you be more specific on that?
Yeah, sometimes you face sexual exploitation and abuse or bullying. Bullying will be one of the factors. But mostly you find out that some of these children, when they were attending the school in a rural community, maybe a junior secondary school, and they have been promoted to a senior secondary school, they migrate to another community that you lose track and you lose focus on them. So migrations are very significant.
Okay, so there's no aspect, like you mentioned FGM, so I wanted to connect the two.
Migration and a pandemic.
FGM, you mentioned that FGM is also an issue that you are a challenge to child.
FGM, FGM, migration. The migration of children from the rural community to the urban communities have been posing sometimes a challenge. Like for example, some of the children we're dealing with But because of the schools they were attending, they have to migrate to the city area. We lost track of some of these children. That one. Number two, when job opportunity, maybe they transfer their parents, maybe their parent was a teacher or was an NGO staff or have found a job, then they migrate to another place or seeking employment, and they carry the children along with them.
And how influential would you say these children's groups and youth groups are in your various countries?
They are influential. Number one, people listen to them. When they are on the air, they are advancing advocacy. Like we have the March for Justice that they held when it comes to the increase in the number of sexual exploitation and abuse, more especially rape. And they still look up to them. Yes, they consider their voice key. Yes, when they speak out using the media, people take them seriously.
Anyone else who would like to contribute on the challenges, but also how influential the youth groups and children's groups are within their countries? I think Axelia wanted to say something.
Yes, I wanted to agree and just add on to Madam Lydia's contribution. I think, or rather, facts be told, the truth is that all policymakers and any other organizations, they have to make us children a priority. At this stage, we as children should be a priority, because just like Madam Lydia said, if we like having any, let's say, meetings, and then the topic is us, and then you'd find to say, no, the person who is moderating the meeting is somebody who is maybe 50. It's kind of makes us the children uncomfortable, and it's kind of like maybe a home and just scared of your dad. Like you want to say something, but you can't say that thing to your dad again. That is the worst. I think the friendly spaces should be more for us, the children, and we should be a priority, Pantu, because we are the future leaders. And if the people say we are the future leaders, it is very important that we actively take part in all issues that are affecting us at this very moment. We start.
Yeah, we lost connection for a bit there, but you were saying as the future leaders, the children then should be involved in every decision-making aspect. So yes. We're just celebrating that.
Yes, so I was saying as the future leaders, we are not, because the misconception when people say the future leaders is that now, or rather the misconception that we children have is that when we say we're the future leaders of tomorrow, we have to wait for tomorrow to come for us to be the future leaders. But in the sense that we have to start now to be acting like the future leaders of tomorrow for us to be the future leaders of tomorrow. And for that to happen, that means we should actively take part in every issue that is affecting, because we are the ones that are facing those issues. And so, like I gave an example of the radio program that we had. We're talking about circumstantial children, and the people that were talking about that issue are actually children. And it was actually more interesting because we're talking about children, and the people that are talking about it was children. That means that this information, the way information was flowing was kind of interesting to the young people, because we, again, the children are the ones who are talking about issues that are affecting us. I think we children should be made a priority. It is high time, because we've been pushed back too much, and even in issues that affect us, of which is not so fair. We can't have other people representing us there. They talk about issues that are children when they leave out the children's. Okay, so what is the point of talking about children when somebody who is not a child is talking about a child? So it's very important for us to be put on the spotlight and be recognized. We should be a priority. That's my main point. We should be a priority. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Axelia, for that. It is good to have a young person present in this meeting, so we can have your own, your actual views on the issue of participation. So my question is, how do you think you can best be supported to participate in the spaces, like at national level, community level, or even in your homes? Like, how would you say would be best way to empower you, or to engage with you, so that you can be able to fully participate? in decision-making processes.
Thank you so much. I think policies are there, but the policies are not effective. Like the policies are not like running the way they should be. Should be somewhat of a wake-up call to all the people that are decision-making policies. I think they need an awareness or something so that they also consider as children.
Okay, yeah, okay, so continue to lobby and advocate for participation and the use of the policies and not them just being dormant or just being there to fit or to tick a box. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for that. Is there any other contributions from any colleagues on how to engage with child rights or child-led organizations and youth groups? So another question, of course, it's what are possible strategies that we can have to not only build capacity, but also help the child-led organizations and youth groups to network so that they can have that influence that we need them to have and that power that they need to have. And yeah, how can we keep these activities or these, how can we keep these strategies sustainable? Meaning even after our intervention, this change will continue to happen in our various contexts in Africa. Which one would work? Which way would work?
Yeah, today is one of the strategies that could be used from my experience working with the youth group. First of all, there must be a cemented relationship between the child rights group and the local community leadership.
Good and strong relationship.
Now, if there is a good relationship, between the child-led group or the GYW and the community leadership, because one of the things here has to be like a space have been given to the young people, mostly young girls, into leadership, community leadership at the national level, even in CSO, then they will be able, they are present there, who will not only to occupy position, but to also be able to use their good position to lobby and advocate for more young girls to be given opportunities to serve in leadership. And for this to happen, the youth group have to develop more relationship with the community, because if there's a good a relationship between the youth group and the community leadership, then we expect more results. To mean that the community stakeholders, they should have good relationship with the young girls that are coming on advocacies. And another thing I would suggest is that if that position have been given to them, that's have been given to them to serve into leadership, then there must be representation even at the local level in terms of taking key decisions that will affect the community. Then there must be input from the young people, more especially girls. They should also form part of the meeting agenda formulation. And they should also have saying there that would be highly commendable.
So to build a strong relationship between the child-led groups and community leaders, making sure that there is representation of child-led groups at local level, because at national level we've seen that we are there, maybe not fully engaged by our local governments, but they are already there. Yeah, so thank you for that, Mustafa. Is there any other suggestion?
Yes, Pradesh. I think as part of our sustainability plans, we have always been integrating the existing groups in our programs. So whenever there is a new or an ongoing program, we don't go out to create a different group altogether, but we always try as much as possible to work with the existing ones to still build their capacity and to still continue our partnership with them. Then for the She Leads, what we've been doing is that we are linking these groups to adults-led, like-minded adult-led groups for them to learn and share with them. Last year, we had a lot of sections with them where some of them were building their capacities. And sometimes even if you are preparing your own plans and you need their inputs, they are always available to help you. We have formed a social movement, and we didn't want a situation where maybe after she leaves ends, we will not get anybody to continue running the movement. So what the strategy we've adopted is that the movement executives are members of the already existing groups, which we already have. Then we also have these adult-led networks because already they are established and they are running. So we want them to also support them so that even if she leaves ends and this movement wants to organize programs, at least they will have other organizations available who would always support them in their programming.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Faustina. So it well, you spoke of linking child-led groups with like-minded adult groups, or rather, and then having to, what was the other one? Work with existing child-led groups instead of forming a new one, because the existing ones already have, they already have shaped themselves, while starting a newer one might die off with the program. Is that what you were saying? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Please come again.
For the working with existing child-led groups or youth-led groups, instead of forming a newer one, it's much better and more sustainable because they're already shaped and formed and they already have their goals and plans ongoing. While if we decide to form another one, it might die off with the program.
Yeah.
Was that what you meant to say?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Is there any other suggestions? Yes, Axelia.
I don't have the exact right weights, but I pray and hope you'll be able to connect it. So yes. I'll give an example of this platform that we were having right now. So I feel rather there is need for a more systematic way of doing things. For example, I think what's happening now is just that things are happening and there are like organizations that are talking about young people and the engagement of young people. But what actually happens that, okay, so as I am part of this conversation right now, it's just that, okay, there was a child that was part of this activity. I feel like it's just like more of what is happening just for the checks and balances. There's a child who was part of this activity. Okay, tick, tick, checks and balances in. And then what happens after that? It's like there isn't nothing that comes after that, after the children have been, let's say, engaged in an activity. So like, I think there is more need to like follow up, or maybe like what happens in these programs. If the child was there, what happened after that? I don't know if it's making sense.
Yeah, definitely. The follow-up definitely makes sense. And in fact, we have had the same issue, or rather the same question has been brought on by many other youth and young girls that we're working on. With the question is mostly that we do participate in these regional meetings. We write position papers, like Manav said earlier on, children and youth writing position papers and submitting them to the local governments or even at regional or global level, but then there is always no follow-up. So the biggest question is what happens to the position paper or the opinion that was voiced by children and youth?
Yes.
You definitely makes sense, and thank you so much for bringing that back into the discussion. Is there any other comments or suggestions or challenges and strategy? But if I can go back to the following up question, which best way as NGOs or as the consortium can we make sure that there is an actual following up of activities and of opinions and such from children led organizations and youth groups? Okay, so maybe that's a thing to come back to. But one suggestion for me would be, of course, having, if there is a child or a young person who has maybe presented that position paper, one thing that we can do is keep in contact with the mechanism that received that, and having some sort of lobbying activity, various events based on the specific position paper, on the specific view or opinion that was voiced. So that could be one, because again, we cannot control what these regional and global mechanisms are doing, but all we can do is just act as reminders and watchdogs to some extent, so that we can make sure that everything is going as followed, as planned, and as promised. So that's a suggestion. If there is any other, please feel free to write it up in the chat or voice it out.